Welcome to Dadtrepreneur, the podcast tailor-made for the modern man balancing personal development, business, and family. This is Dadtrepreneur.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Dadtrepreneur podcast. We talk about all things man, even the stuff men don't want to talk about. I'm your co-host, Billy G.
What's going on, guys? I'm Jared.
And today we have another guest on. His name is John, and he's kind of a jack of all trades. He's been in multiple different businesses, and we thought it would be awesome to bring him in and kind of talk about the topic of, should you be self-employed with your own business, or should you work for somebody else? You know, there are a lot of things that go into owning your own business that, you know, frankly, some people might just not be willing to do, and maybe they're just not, their personality is just not built for that, right? So I think it's really wise that we talk about this topic and put it out there, so maybe people who are struggling with that choice can maybe come to their own conclusions.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, guys. It's a pleasure to be here. Love what you guys are doing, and it's truly my honor.
Appreciate you coming on. So let's start with, what have been your most successful businesses, and what have been your, I don't even know if I want to call it failures, but your biggest lessons?
Well, let's start with this too. Like, I mean, if you had a number, unless you know the exact, like how many have you started?
I don't know the exact.
Okay.
I will tell you that I have a philosophy that I've maintained for about 20 years, and I try to do a business a year.
Wow.
Because in the beginning, my philosophy was, if let's say you have a 20% success rate, at the end of 5 years, I have at least one functioning business.
Okay.
You know, and if
Yeah.
I keep that going, after 10 years, I have two functioning businesses.
Right,
you know?
right.
So, and well, thankfully, the success rate has been over 20%. But even at that low rate, you can figure out how.
Yeah, you got some good stuff going on. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, and then I apologize. What was the initial question?
No, in the beginning, I guess I'll ask, because it's not easy to get there, right? Meaning where you can build a business a year or start a business per year. In the very beginning, were you like that from the jump, where you're like, you know what, I'll start a business a year, and then if 20% are successful, I'm good?
The way how it started really was my mother was experiencing some difficult times and everything, and I wanted to kind of try to help out, and I wanted to see what I could do to get there. I didn't have any resources. I didn't have any way to do anything. So I was able to, when I was in college, I would start, like I did I would do nightclub promoting. That was wildly successful, by the way. That did great. I did a little travel agency. My mother had a timeshare. So what I would do is charge the fellow students like $25. I would rent the location for maybe $100 for the weekend, and I would charge students like $25 for a ski trip, which is affordable, and then pack the house with like 20 kids, 30 kids. And then, so I was making some revenue like that, and little different things. I opened up, back in that time, we're talking about the 90s, there was 125th Street in Harlem, New York. They would sell all the bootleg VHS tapes.
Right.
I would buy the bootlegs of the movies that were coming out, and then I would resell them uptown in the Bronx. I would buy them for $2, sell them for $10. So I did things like that, saved up my money until I had my little nest egg, and like $10,000. And the first property I bought was $75,000, which I sold later for, I think it was $180,000, like a year or two later. And then now I have a chunk. And with that chunk, I can start doing other things and take me into different businesses and things like that. I understand, believe me, coming from nothing, I understand how hard it is to say start a business a year, but a business can be anything. Those first businesses I started, and we're not talking about today. Today, there's the internet. There's so many things available.
Yeah, we spoke about that on one episode.
So what I did was used just getting out there, talking to people, the nightclub promotion. Every week, everybody say, hey, it's your birthday every week. Every week, hey, it's my birthday. I would make flyers, I'd give them out, and I'd come with a guest list, and I get paid for every person from my guest list. And I opened, this was back when videos were a thing. I told you I was buying the videos. And I don't know if you guys remember the Faces of Death videos and all that crazy stuff.
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah. So we opened, with a buddy of mine, I opened a video store, and we swore we were going to be the next Blockbuster, NJN Video. And that's what we would do.
Thank God you weren't.
It was a cool spot. It was a storefront. We had video games in there. We had, we have obviously the movies that we rented out. And, we rented out all those kind of movies that you couldn't go into a Blockbuster and get, you know. If you want to say what was a dud, that was a dud. But nothing is a dud because everything's a learning experience.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Like, you only lose when you don't learn. Like,
So let's start there, right? Because from what you're saying so far, you hustled
Oh, yeah.
until you had a nest egg, then you bought a property, then you flipped that property, then you had a bigger nest egg, and then I'm assuming you got into a better business. Well, was that the first business, the movie store? Like the first real exactly.
Storefront, yes.
Okay, and then what was after that?
Official storefront, I would probably say after that, because it was the when I got the chunk of money from the sale of the house, I did the Diamond Auto in the Bronx, which was a car customizing shop on Bruckner Boulevard. We did all types of modifications to vehicles. This was in the pimp my ride days. So we did all types of customizations, music, paint, body work. We did we won car shows. Like we were really doing
That sounds like
thing,
a fun thing to be doing.
It was,
for sure.
It was fun.
Because I'm sure you were doing, because I know Pimp My Ride was huge and they did wild stuff.
We did.
Yeah.
I used to
With
love
like
it.
fish
I got a
tanks and
fish-
shit.
I
Yeah, man.
Put a fish tank in the ceiling.
We had a guy who was doing 3D molds, right? So he would do molds of like skulls on motorcycles and cars and like 3D. So it was on the hood. You just have all these contours and women and body parts and it just so it was crazy. We got crazy with it. We had a nice name, but that from there I learned about cyclical, right? Not every business is meant to last forever, you know. Some things are here for a reason, some things are here for a season, and that was just something that got me to the next step, because I had maybe 5 or 6 years there, but that 5 or 6 years gave me the opportunity to start investing in other things. But to be honest with you, my mainstay at that point, although I was into the business a year type thing, real estate, and that was before the crash. So
Right.
the winds were wildly successful, so it was like, wow, this wave is beautiful. You couldn't miss. You couldn't miss. So every penny I made would just go into buying. And then they had at that time, they had the stated income, they had all that. So it was like, okay, I make X amount. I want this house. And they just give it to you. And you hold on to it for a few months and then just flip it. And so that's kind of how I started. To be able to tell you all the business, I wouldn't be able to. I did so many, like really. But I would say I probably have like a 30 or 40% success rate. It's
pretty good, though.
I mean, that's damn good.
You have to think what average businesses fail. I think it's every 1 in 5 fail in the first year, and then it becomes staggering at year 3 through 5. It's like 70% of businesses fail.
Nuts.
Which is crazy, right? And then it gets even higher in years, like 10 and beyond.
So
obviously.
why do you think that is, though?
There's a ton of reasons, right? So a lot of the times it's going to be resources. Right. You don't have the money. And
lack of motivation.
Endless reasons. What would you think the reasons, the main reasons are?
I mean, I got to be honest with you. When I hear that, I kind of feel like those are people that really didn't understand their market. I don't want to say they didn't want it, but you didn't understand your market.
Didn't do the research.
A lot of times you got to know what your business is, right? So, for example, let's use the example of the McDonald's, right? Everybody knows that, right?
Yep, right.
They're here thinking, the founders were thinking their business was burgers. Turns out their business was real estate. They just never knew it. Yeah. And a lot of times people get into a business thinking, hey, this is my business. No, your business is this. But you're so busy focusing on this that you don't understand. This is going away.
Because I don't think everyone knows. I know what you're talking about, but I don't think everyone knows. So specify what you mean.
So with the McDonald's, they were initially the founders of McDonald's, the original founders. They were thinking that the value of the business was selling burgers. But the person who came in, Ray Kroc, he came in and he understood that the value was the land. So he was able to rent to himself all the land. He purchased the land it was on. So although you may own your franchise McDonald's, you don't own the land. He owns the land, and you have to pay him for the land.
So correct me if I'm wrong. I believe he owned a franchise, but he also bought the land that his franchise was on.
Yes.
And then he started going and buying all the land for future McDonald's to be on. Correct. Yeah. So a genius.
That is genius. Yeah.
But people didn't think that way.
No.
The owners, the founders of McDonald's did not think in that.
No, and that's why I would say a lot of people fails, because they're not really understanding what the business
Completely
is.
agree.
They're just thinking about one
Or
aspect.
maybe they don't see the whole picture. Like the McDonald's thing, right? I mean, the guy saw the burger and fries, and who doesn't love burger and fries, right? And then you have another guy that comes in and goes, that is true, which is why they should be everywhere.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like it just doesn't see the whole picture at first.
Exactly.
It's short-sighted, right? That happens a lot. Especially when there's money involved, right?
Of course.
So there's an opportunity to make a vast amount of money in a short term and people just hone in on that, and they don't think a big picture. Look, it's happened in my opinion, it's happened in our partnership in the past. It's short-sighted. You let money come in the way, and you go your separate ways. But if in the long term you stood together, it may have been better.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So it happens, right? People are short-sighted. They don't have the vision.
But that's okay.
Oh, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, that's okay.
But I'm just saying.
We're thankful for those people.
Absolutely. I completely agree. But my point is it's lack of vision. Lack of vision.
Yeah. So I would say that's what it was, because
Agreed.
if you walk, all right, I believe you should do whatever business you think of, you should do everything you can do for free right now, even if you're not going to do it. Like, let's say we say, hey, we're going to sell popsicles. Okay, I'm not telling you go out, get a store of it. No, but how do we do it? You start thinking through it. You start researching. You start finding out, what do I need for this? What do I need for that? At the end of the day, even if you never move forward with it, you've gained the knowledge. And that's really all it takes.
Yes.
So once you do that all the time with everything you ever think about, you just go through the process, and you'll already know when a business comes up. Oh, wait, I have to take this into account. I have to take that into account. I have to find out if I'm zoned for this. I have to find out if I fall into this tax bracket. You already know, because you're practicing. Nobody teaches you this. We got to teach ourselves. And the way you do that is by doing everything you can do for free. Do it. You know, it doesn't cost you anything. It's just some time. And especially now, it's nothing
good
but
point.
a couple clicks
It's a
away.
good point.
Yeah,
You know?
I mean, that's
Really good
actually
point.
exactly how I started my online coaching business. I started for free. You know, I just started coaching my
Yeah,
friends.
yeah.
I started coaching just random people at the gym. Hey, man, you look great. Why don't you let me help you out for a couple of weeks and see how this goes? And then once people see, like, oh, wow, this is working.
Yep.
I'm like, perfect. Can I use your before and afters in order to market myself? And then they love the results they get. And then they tell their friend. And then their friend signs up, and then they tell their friends. And then it blossomed into something that started paying me.
Smart. Yeah.
You know, in the beginning, it was just, like you said, just giving my time, really. You know, what time did it take for me to sit down, talk to somebody, figure out a good plan for them, check in with them once a week? Not a crazy amount. You know what I mean? That's put some brain power into it for sure, but like it paid off in spades, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And that's what it is. It's about putting that value out there. That's how we learn, you know, and that's why I'm reluctant to say a failure, you know, at any business.
I don't
you know?
call it that at all.
Yeah, because there's things that don't work the way you want them to, but everything serves a purpose. You know, everything is, some things just aren't for you. Some things are just, you know, there to get you to another step, another level of understanding. Some things are just part of your education, you know, and that's the way I look at it.
A lot of times there's things that are out of your control, right? Like, so as an example, Rabbit Labs, the supplement company my brother and I started, it was going really well when we were using our good friend Gabe as a manufacturer. Was going very well. We sold out a product way too quickly. And then what happened was Gabe, his manufacturer, had to increase their bottle count, and we couldn't justify it. We didn't have enough of our focus into that to be like, hey, let's dump, I don't know. It was a high dollar amount into it. So we didn't take the chance. Now I wish we did, to be honest with you, because I liked it. I enjoyed it. I liked the product. I liked the branding. And so did a lot of other people. So I kind of wish that I did, but it's another lesson learned. You
And
know?
your history.
When we switched manufacturers, I was like, it was a well-known manufacturer, and I ended up getting so irritated with them because what happened was on the pump product, what is the ingredient you have to have in a pump product if you have a lot of L-citrulline? You know what I'm talking about. There's something that you have to have in it so it doesn't clump. I don't remember what it's called.
Yeah, I can't. think of
And they didn't. Right. So when I called them out about it, they're like, yeah, no, we did. And it was like, I'm not going to argue with you. And it wasn't enough to sue them for, you know, so it was like, I just deaded it.
Yeah.
I just deaded it. I couldn't justify trying to chase that rabbit, you know?
Yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you. And that's unfortunately for a lot of people, you know, they will look at that as a crushing defeat instead of just taking it for what it really is, you know?
Well, a good point is if that was their only thing, then it would be a crushing defeat. It wasn't our only thing.
Right.
So that is a good point, right? Like if I had everything into that and then I went through the same thing I went through, I think I would have been crushed.
But do you think that if it was everything to you, that you would have actually maybe taken other steps that you decided not to take?
I would have figured out how to make it work.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I think that's the difference. You know, I think if that was your all in and you maybe had some steps left, you would have taken them.
Agreed.
Right?
Yeah,
you know?
I agree.
And then at that point, if it fails, then of course, crushing defeat.
Exactly. Yeah. Because that could
It's
go
around
one
the
of two
corner,
ways,
yeah.
you know? And again, I'm not saying, you know, commit till the end. You know, you've got to have an exit strategy. You know, and anything you do, you got to have a reasonable exit strategy. Now, I'm not talking about throwing in the towel too quick. There's fights. There's a lot of hard work. There's effort that goes into this sacrifice. But you do still. All right, let's use real world examples. I had a business that I set up completely wrong, and I was being penny wise, dollar foolish. I was worried about, if I rent in the right location, the rent's going to be too high. Let me rent in this location that's not so right, optimal, and then I can, just try to make it up and then get to that right location. But it's never really taken off the way it would have in the right location. It would have taken off, but I was limited access. I didn't have enough. I wasn't in front of enough eyes. So I'm feeding this beast, and I'm just watching this account that I'm using for this business just dwindle. And I'm like, at what point do I stop the bleeding? And I was like, wait, first, let me rebrand. Let me give this push, a final push, and try to do as much as I can to make this thing succeed. And I did that, and then COVID. With the knockout blow.
Yeah.
COVID is undefeated.
Yeah.
I have one for that too that
really
not
is.
many people know about. Like we were going to start a clothing brand because so many people liked Rabbit and the branding. We were going to start a clothing brand that gave back to endangered species.
Okay.
So we had it all mapped out. We have a bunch of shirts in our main office sitting in a closet right now that have not been sold a single time. But our employees love it. They're all rocking them and wearing them for free.
Yeah.
So, but same thing because it was in the prime of COVID. We had everything ready. We were gonna launch, and then COVID hit. I was like, not even gonna bother.
Yeah.
I didn't even bother. We did not even try.
Yeah, that it was tough, but we're on the other end of it now, and the important thing is again like understanding when to pull the plug.
What business was that? What?
This actually was an ice cream shop, which a lot of friends told me not to do.
I know about this.
Not to do, but their argument for not to do it was different. So there's gonna come in every entrepreneur's life existence, there's going to come an opportunity where certain businesses, and I hate to say it this way, but are beneath you, certain ROIs, rate of return, a return on investment are beneath you. And I don't feel that way. I feel if anything, to me, you have to define what's a good return on investment for you. So if I'm in real estate, I need 10% on my money. And I'm talking about, growth. I need 10%. If I'm in business, I need 100% the first year. I'm sorry. And people say, no, you're lucky if you get 15. I have never been in a business where I only made 15% on my investment the first year. I'm sorry. I haven't
You
done
mean
that.
solely on your investment, on what you put
Exactly,
into the business.
on what you put in. Like
that's believable.
Yeah, I got to make what I put back, because if you
That's
invest
not profitable.
If you invest 100,000, and we're using small numbers here, but if you invest 100,000 and you only make 15,000,
Hey,
what did you do?
that's small numbers to you.
You know what I mean? So my thing is a business that can pay potentially 100%, 200%, 300% is worth it. I don't care if it's a $50,000 investment. Look at the ROI. My ROI is 300%. This business is worth it. Oh, but you're taking all this time. This is what they would tell me. You're using all this time. A business a year. And this is this year's business. This is what I'm doing this year. I'm not going to sit around and not do anything because I don't have something on my plate right now that's worth the investment. I have to do something. So.
Let me ask you, and I'm assuming you already have dissected this. Have you ever taken the time to think if you invested your time in your other businesses, would it be worth more than starting a new business?
So this is
He was ready.
No, because I hear that a lot, and this is what I want to say. When you start something, you raise your child, right? You raise your child. You get them to the point where they can support themselves and stand on their own, and they're their own child. That doesn't mean you're not there to help them with their advice or whatever they may need. But I've raised you. You can do what you're out here to do. Go do it. And maybe if I were here guiding you every step, you'd give me 500%. But I'm not here, so you're giving me 250. I'm okay with that.
So this is a perfect segue, right? So this is the difference between an entrepreneur and sole proprietorship, right? Like, so perfect segue. And I think, look, myself included, I don't think a lot of people think about entrepreneurship in this light. So everybody thinks they're an entrepreneur, when in reality,
They're a sole proprietor.
They're a sole proprietor.
Correct.
Including, I'm 50-50, to be honest with you.
Right.
Right. So my business my brother and our business can run on its own, but it will not run as well with one of us in that building as if one of us were in that building. So I'm like in the middle. But he's the one that shed light on this. He asked me this question, and I was like, I never thought about it that way, you know? And it's true. If I left tomorrow and Jordan was not in that building, I was not in that building, it could run, but it would not run as well as it could as if I was in there. Right?
But that's okay, right? So meaning, this is what I mean. And I'm not saying walk away. I'm not saying that. What I mean is this. Sole proprietorship is the first step to entrepreneurship, okay? It is the decision to say, I'm going into business for myself. I want to make my own money. I want to be in control of my own destiny. It is also where if you don't show up, you don't get paid. If you don't do the work, you don't get paid. If you don't provide the service, you don't get paid. You're a sole proprietor. When you make that jump is when you establish something where that can be organic, have its own growth, have its own productivity, and exist on its own. And when you do it multiple times. When you establish a track record of being able to create these businesses that run themselves, now you're an entrepreneur. But if you have your one business that you run, that you have to go to every day and you have to work and you have to make sure you're a sole proprietor, which there's nothing wrong with. I'm not saying, one thing in one way or another, but there is a distinction. And a lot of times that the lines get muddled. Sole proprietorship is the first step. Self-employed is the first step into entrepreneurship. But it is not the final step, and they are not synonymous. It's completely independent of each other, and a lot of people don't realize that. But let's examine what would make someone make the leap. Hey, should I have a traditional job? Should I be employed traditionally?
That is exactly what I was going to say. So, look, we've all worked 9 to 5s, dude. We've all done it. Okay. I mean, I still do basically half the time, like we all have that traditional job at least once in your life where you gain the experience of showing up, clocking in, clocking out, doing a job, reporting to somebody, building that structure, right? Because I mean, I think very few people roll out of bed at 18 and are ready to be a sole proprietor. Correct. Right? I mean, you had to have slung some pizzas and some hamburgers at some point.
Absolutely.
You stocked some shelves at Publix at some point in order to establish that routine for yourself and even know what it is to work, to have a job. So at what point in someone's life do they go from that state of, okay, I've put in the time, right, to understand what the work environment is, to now I'm going to take the leap and maybe try this on my own?
Well, I'd like to go even a step further, right? Let's just throw some things back and forth at each other. What would you say are some advantages to a traditional 9 to 5? Some advantages.
You don't have to worry about it when you clock out. Your brain can shut off.
I love that.
And how peaceful would that be to leave at 5 o'clock?
Absolutely.
And have
nothing.
Just blank. Just go move on with your life.
I can't even.
Right? It's unimaginable. Really. Stability in terms of paycheck.
That's what I was going to say.
Yep.
Stability in
Security.
terms of paycheck, yeah.
A lot of times too, benefits.
Absolutely.
Benefits, yes,
People will
that's another one.
Retirement,
jobs,
insurance.
401k,
Yeah,
stock
absolutely.
options. They make that life attractive in those ways because they want you for life.
Another thing, predictability of progression. The longer you work at a job,
You
the
can take the
further
next
you
step.
can, I'm
Yes.
going to be
Manager,
this and that.
sales manager, general manager.
Yes,
Yeah.
so I can
Yes.
retire at this level.
Right.
So these are things that I want to say, for the most part, kind of expected and almost, I don't want to say guaranteed, but it's the natural progression of a normal traditional job.
Well, most people obviously assume that they're going to make more money as self-employed or a business owner. It's actually not very true, right? So the average salary, I think, as of 2023 is $59,000 nationwide. The average business owner makes anywhere from $27,000 to $94,000.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can make more, but the responsibility that comes with it can outweigh that extra pay by
And if
far.
and if you're talking the average, I mean, the top end of that average is 90,000. The average is 60. Is the headache worth the 30 grand?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And that's assuming that you get to the top tier,
that's assuming you're really good,
right?
absolutely.
Exactly. So not realistic, right?
But then, okay, perfect, right? So now, what are some of the setbacks?
I think some of the setbacks are stunted growth, right? Being capped. You know, sometimes let's say you do climb the ladder a little bit, and you
hit
get
the
to this
ceiling.
point, you hit the ceiling. You're like, okay, well, this is the most I will make at this job. Period.
What would you say?
If you can't handle having to wear multiple hats, I don't think you're ready to be self-employed or a business owner at all.
So for someone with a traditional job, one of the things a few things I would say, right? Like there's 52 weeks in a year. 2 of them are mine.
Right.
2?
2.
52 weeks a year and 2 are mine.
Correct.
7 days a week and 2 are mine. That's something that never settled well with me. You know, another thing we spoke about it. You spoke about it briefly. The retirement, right? The retirement. I don't like it. So traditionally, there's a metaphor in finance circles about the 3-legged stool, right? So traditionally, the 3-legged stool is pension, your savings, which would be your 401k, and Social Security, the Social Security net. Pensions are gone.
Oh, without doubt.
Pensions are gone. They're trying to take away Social Security. So what we have left is 401k, which are being eaten up by, fees, compound interest. And for people who don't understand what compound interest is, it's interest that's charged to you, your principal and your interest. You get charged interest on
Multiple
principal
times.
and interest multiple times. You know, so for example, just to throw a number out there, if you were able to save $1.5 million at the end of your 401k, you probably gave away $300,000 of that in fees. You know, so that's something when you are a self-employed or entrepreneur that you have to kind of take control of and start establishing what you're going to do for your retirement.
So that's a really solid argument that you bring up, you know, because I feel like everybody, I mean, look, my dad was in public service his whole life, right? And like his whole thing was pension, 401k, like, you know, I think that's what was like taught to him, you know? And we talked about this on the episode with Jordan that like, you know, we're not taught this stuff. Like everything you're saying is the truth, but it's foreign to 90% of people. It's almost like you know a secret that like they don't want you to know, right? If you don't have that information, so let's say you don't know any of these things that you're talking about, you don't have the foresight to think about those things, how do you even come to a place where you even want to take that step? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you know that like I can climb the ladder at the grocery store and, you know, make $100,000 a year as the store manager and, you know, buy into stocks, have a 401k and retire, you know, at 60 something years old, 65 years old, and then collect Social Security on top of it. Like, why would you want to change that if you don't know that information?
Now that's true, but what everyone has to do, and it's one of the beauties, I think, it's challenging. It's one of the challenges, but one of the beauties of being self-employed entrepreneur, you have to become financially literate. You have to understand. So if you have everybody talk, oh, Roth, I don't like when I hear people saying the Roth. Max contribution in your Roth is what, $6,500 a year? Max contribution for your 401k as of 2023, I want to say it's $23,000 a year. So if you do that, if you do both things, you know, you can save roughly $30,000 a year. You can save roughly $30,000 a year. If you have someone managing it, now, you know, you got points on that. And over time, yes, you can, assuming 8%, yeah, you could end up with a beautiful nest egg. But what happened to Enron? What happened to these companies that their retirement plans were based in company stock and it was a fraud and people lost everything? So, I'm not in no way, whatever camera it is, in no way am I giving financial advice about how to plan for your retirement. I'm just saying, be aware. Be aware. For myself, what I said was, and I've said, back in my 20s, I knew that I didn't want to rely on someone else to take care of my nest egg. I said, I'm going to purchase investment properties. I'm going to have income. Why? Purchasing investment properties insulates me because as inflation occurs, my value on my properties go up. My rentals go up. My income goes up. It rises with inflation. That doesn't necessarily happen with traditional savings in a 401k or anything like that. What we're seeing today, and look this up, right? By no means don't just accept what I'm saying as law. Like, look it up. I challenge everyone, look it up. People are relying on those retirement plans, and they're getting wiped out because inflation is so high, rents are so high.
Can't keep up.
They can't keep up. They planned, they budgeted for their 2,000-3,000, which when they started working sounded like it was enough. It's not enough. You know what I mean?
So when they go to retire, what the money they get is still going to be a fraction of what they actually
my
needed.
thing was always investment properties. Like that's what I want my retirement portfolio to look like. Few investment properties and some businesses, you know, and if I can maintain that, and I retired at 32, you know, I stayed, I didn't do anything. Your father knows, I didn't do
How old are you
anything
now?
I'm going to be 50 next month.
Retired
about
at
a month.
32. A year. We're 30. I'm 34.
Dude, I'm 34.
I thought I was 33 for a second. So yeah, he's got us beat.
With the right plan, with understanding, and this is another thing. This was before I'm older, so there was no internet. Look it up. I literally, my internet was I had to go to Barnes and Nobles. Didn't have the money, so I would just sit there in the aisle and read. I would just read, and I would try to learn as much as I can about as much as I could, and everything that I saw in my limited scope was about real estate. Now, don't get me wrong, I took some lumps in that too.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sure you took a couple beatings along the way.
Because initially, when, you know, as I was riding the wave before the recession in the mid 2000s, I bought the first home, 75, you know, a year later, sold for 180. I bought another home at 280, 6 months later, sold at 380. You know, I was able to do things like that. So I started thinking, if I'm making 50%, 100% on these flips, what if I invested 500,000? Then do I get $1 million, you know, back? You know? So then I started investing in high-end homes. And that's where I got a
There's
shellacking.
a sweet spot in real
That's
estate.
where I got a shellacking. There's no room, like you can't fall from the floor. That's when I learned this. My investment properties are bottom. Like I invest at the bottom. That's where
There's
I
a sweet
invest.
spot.
You cannot fall from the floor.
Yeah.
But if you try to climb up and invest up there, oh, you can fall hard.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, that was another lesson I learned the hard way with investing. Like, then I apologize. I think I went off on a tangent there.
No, we always do, bro. But one thing I wanted to talk about too is, you know, but just by listening to your story, and I hear, okay, like when you were a kid, you sold VHS tapes, right? Like you hustled VHS tapes. And you were hustling, you know, getting people for the party promotions. Like in my eyes, just listening to what you're saying, like you had that mindset young, right? So I think that not a lot of people ever achieve that mindset where they think of, okay, well, what is my next move to make money, right? Whereas it kind of sounds like that's always you, right? Like you kind of sound like, okay, well, I've done this. It fails, it passes, whatever. What's next? It doesn't sound like you're really emotionally attaching yourself to a lot of these things. Is that true?
I will say that with time, I've become desensitized.
Right.
That wasn't always the case.
Right.
It was, you know, I'm older. I've gotten beat up. I've had some wins. So I'm a little desensitized now when I understand the landscape. But I will say, and I will suggest to everyone, take it personal. When you fail, take it personal. Learn from it. You know, what happens if you're in a competition and you lose? You train harder. You get ready.
No.
Yeah.
what I do.
You
Yeah.
get ready. And that's what you do. Take it personal, get ready, and attack the next one with that much more oomph, you know?
So what do you think contributed to that mindset early on? Do you think it, you talked about your mother struggling, right? You didn't grow up with a whole lot going on. Like, do you think maybe that position is what
Has to be.
pushed you in that direction?
It is, and it's also that I had children very young.
Oh, okay.
So like, you know, I'm gonna be 50,
Okay.
and I have a 35-year-old.
Got it. Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
So a 35-year-old, a soon-to-be 30-year-old, a 20. You know, my children are grown.
Right.
You know, so it was also that. Also knowing how difficult it was for me and not wanting it to be that difficult for them.
Wow.
You know, so it's like, because I got to be honest, if it wasn't for that, I don't know that I would have pushed as hard as I pushed.
So I think that's a cop-out, though, right? Because my upbringing wasn't rough.
I mean, look, mine
It's a
wasn't
cop-out.
terrible
It's a
either.
cop-out. Yeah, but you went through some rough shit.
Yeah.
I don't
terrible
really
things.
have that. You know what I mean? Like my parents were amazing, gave us everything we wanted and needed.
Yes.
So I think it's just a cop-out. I think it's a part of what made him strong, for sure.
Right.
But I don't think that that's the answer for being a self-employed or an
you're right.
entrepreneur.
You're
You know what I
right.
mean?
No,
And I'm not
that-
saying you're saying that.
Yeah, yeah,
But
no.
I'm just saying in general.
Well, because I think that the beginnings, your beginnings are very different. I mean, you did take the safe route at first. I mean,
Yeah.
you were working at Publix. I mean, granted, you had multiple jobs, you know, when we first started hanging out, but like you kind of were taking it the safe route and just
Yeah.
working regular 9 to 5s, multiple 9 to 5s, you know, to kind of like keep yourself above water. So it's like, at what point in your life did you decide this is not what I want to do anymore?
So keep in mind, I was trying to start other stuff, right? So I had Resistance, which
Right.
Jordan and I started as well.
Right.
That was while I was working at Publix. That was just to be able to fund that. And then same as everything else that failed in my past, I didn't have the money for it. So we didn't proceed forward with it, you know? So
Did you
I
think
did,
that
I
mindset
did.
has been there the whole time?
yeah, for
Okay,
sure. Yeah.
okay.
I was always thinking of ideas and inventions. Jordan and I, my dad too, were always thinking of stuff, you know? So it was definitely always there. I just didn't have a choice. I didn't have the funds. My dad wasn't, or my parents weren't in a position to give me the money to go start
Right.
whatever I wanted, you
Right,
know?
right.
So at that point, when I was starting Resistance, I actually got a loan from someone I worked for, which I'll never forget him for that. Like I paid him back with interest,
Yeah.
you know? My point is, I don't think it's that. I don't think it's your upbringing. I think it has to do with it, to be clear. Like absolutely that molded you
catalyst.
to it. It's a
Yeah.
catalyst,
Yes.
correct.
Right.
But I think you have to have that.
Agreed.
You
Built
have
into
to have
you,
that
right?
in
Agreed.
you.
Built
It's
into you.
something that is just going to crack the egg. You know what I
Agreed.
mean? It's
Right.
there.
Right.
It's there, and something's going to crack it. When is it going to crack, right? So it's not to say that I never would have done this, but it probably would have come later. You know, it probably would have come later if I had an easier path.
Right.
And I don't. My mother did everything she could. She worked multiple jobs. I'm not talking bad about that. It's just that I knew we didn't have, and I wanted to have more.
Right.
You know, and not from a position of greed or anything, just from a position of survival. Like
No,
I want
yeah.
my kids to
Yeah.
see more things than what I saw. you
Nothing
know?
wrong with that.
I achieved everything I could ever have imagined, right, in my life when I was younger. I achieved before I was 30. And you have no idea how hard that was for me mentally. Like how small, this is what I was telling myself, how small-minded am I that I achieved everything before I was 30 years old? I knew nothing. And that's when I said, okay, let's do this.
Well, it's a lot more impressive, right? Because you said you're 50 now,
Gonna be 50.
and you achieved everything by the time you were 30. That was pre-Instagram and
Yeah.
Yeah.
all
Oh,
of
yeah.
this. That's making everything so much easier. You ever thought about that?
I
bet
yes,
you
I
get
do.
pissed, right?
I can't even
Don't you get a
imagine.
little irritated?
I tell my kids all the time, I can't imagine what I would have done if I was born today. You know, like everything. Like, there's no more excuse. These things here, anything you want to do, right here. You want to make movies. You want to make music. You want to do whatever you want to do. Whatever you want to do, it's right here. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? We didn't have that. You know, this is not a era argument or anything like that. There's no.
Oh, it's the truth.
Yeah, there's no excuses, right? You work with what you have and you make it happen or you don't, and that's really what it boils down to. Along the path, and I know we all encountered this, right? How many people try to talk you sideways?
No, yeah.
Try,
of course.
oh no, you can't do that. You know, how much of that do you have? Now imagine if you're coming from a place as closed-minded as I'm coming from. The amount of people's like, you can't do that. No, that you can't. Or if you get a little bit of success, now everybody wants in. You know, they're looking at the result, but they're not looking at the work. You know, they're like, wait, they want to get here fast, but you're not fast to help me.
Oh, dude.
You're not fast to put in this work with me, but
Yeah.
you want the results. You want the end, right?
There's so many stories about that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, look, I get that even from a fitness standpoint, right? I mean, like people see me now and I post my physique or whatever, you know, this is a decade in, dude, you know, and like I don't miss a meal. I don't miss a workout. Like they don't see that, right? And I have clients that'll sign up and they'll be like, well, I kind of want to be like you. Yeah. I'm like, well, hope you
Yeah, get
your
ready.
seatbelt buckle,
Get
baby.
ready.
It's gonna be a while. Yeah. You want to like
And
prepay for
but
years
I
up
almost-
front or what?
I almost feel disrespected, you know?
Yeah.
Like I almost feel disrespected.
Yeah.
So
Like you think it's that easy. You
Yeah,
think that
yeah.
little of me, that you
Yeah.
think you could just get here? This
Yeah.
was an accident?
correct.
You
So
know what I mean?
I've had people ask me for jobs where they're like, they see everything shiny on the outside, and then when I tell them that this isn't easy, they just disappear. Which to me is such a joke. And on another subject, it's funny. Jordan and I were talking about this the other day because Jordan basically is able to sell firearms now.
Okay.
Right. So he has a page that he started and stuff like that. Long story short, we were talking about like the fact that we have a good amount of followers and friends. And I used us as an example. Between you and I combined, we have over 5,000 followers, I think it is. There's like 390 people following
You follow
us.
the podcast, yeah.
Isn't that mind-blowing?
Yes.
And
Wait,
some
which-
of you are watching right now.
Yes.
Say that
And
again.
that's the truth. So I'm saying, like, between him and I on Instagram, we have over 5,000 followers. On our podcast page, we have like 390, under 400.
On this podcast?
Well, not YouTube. YouTube, we have
YouTube.
we're almost at
Oh.
10K.
Oh, that's 10K.
Those are
Yeah.
strangers.
See, now you're getting me scared. I know I
No.
liked you. I followed you on something. I don't know if it was YouTube
No,
or
but
Facebook.
those are strangers, which is funny, right? It's like your friends. So I
always
always
that
say
way.
everybody wants you to see you do good, but nobody wants you to do better than them.
That's exactly
And that's
right.
the perfect way to put it, and that's the truth.
That's exactly
and
right.
it's so funny because some of them are watching this, but they won't like it, they won't share it, they won't subscribe.
No.
And it's laughable. And then they wonder why they're not doing well in life. It's because of stuff like that.
I was having a conversation with a buddy of mine who has a business, and said, I told him, we were discussing it. He said, you know what's funny? Strangers come in here and never talk me down, never try to get a deal or anything. They give me what I ask. They appreciate the work I do. Family would never pay me to do what friends would never pay me. They feel entitled, and it's that sense of entitlement, that drives. But I wanted to again go back, like when we were discussing the drawbacks to traditional employment, the drawbacks, and we had said, maybe the retirement, or not only having 2 weeks out of the 50 weeks, only having 2 out of the 7 days. I think that is where it's telling who wants to make this leap or not, right? But again, if you decide, hey, you know what? You're right. I don't want to be confined by all these limitations of a traditional job. What do I do? How do I do? Like, that's the part we can't really help with. You got to bring some of your own magic to the table.
Yeah.
Like, I can't tell you, hey, do this and it's going to work. You've got to kind of figure out who it is you want to be, what you want to do, bring that to the table. Listen to some of the things we're saying here, apply them, and then, reach out and take a leap of faith. I think that's one of the hardest things for people to say. A lot of people say, I would love to do something. I just don't know what.
Again, I think that's a cop-out. I think a huge part of a starting point is leaning into your passion, right? That's a big starting point. There's so many things that people are passionate about. The information is out there more than ever, like we just discussed. YouTube University is at an all-time high. So I don't care what the space is. You could go on YouTube and figure out how to do it right now.
Well, I'll tell you what the problem is. It's complacency. It's complacency in life, right? Like, I think the people who say, like, I don't know what to do, it's really because, like, they don't have anything in their life that's worth doing. And that also falls back to complacency. I know plenty of people, man, who, like, they go to their job, they clock in, they come home, they chill on the couch and watch TV, they go to bed. There's zero hobbies, there's zero ambitions, there's zero anything other than the daily grind, right? They wake up, make their coffee, go to work, come home, watch TV, go to bed. And that's their whole
Same
life.
day, every day.
Their whole life. And, like, if that's the way your life is, maybe you want that structure. You want that 9 to 5, right?
Yeah.
And I think that just boils down to, like, and we've said this on other episodes, that you're okay with a certain level of mediocrity.
And that's fine.
And that's fine.
And that's fine.
It's fine
That's
if that's
fine.
what you want, dude. But, like, the people who go beyond that, I think, see that kind of lifestyle and they go, not for me.
Yeah.
Right? I want a nicer car. I want a nicer house. I want my kids to be taken care of and go to the nice school, right? I want to be able to comfortably go on vacation if I want to. I don't want to live in the confinements of a 5-day-a-week schedule, or like I only get 2 weeks out of the year. You know what I mean? I think that the complacency issue is really what brings people down as a whole.
So I agree completely, but I guess the question is, how do you, for the people that want to get out of it, how do they get out of it?
So more importantly, right? Yes, absolutely. I think that someone who's like that, right? You have to examine your day. And this is something I tell a lot of people. You're giving your boss 8 hours. You got to give yourself at least 5. You got to come home and work on you. Your life, if you make your life your job and you don't work on you at all, there's no you. There was a meme that was going around. I don't know if you guys saw it. It was like a meme of
Is it the clown?
No. It was a guy on a Lamborghini, and it says,
About the boss.
the boss, an employee walks in and sees the boss with the Lamborghini and asks, "Man, that's a great car. I'd love to get one day." And the boss says, "Well, if you
Keep working
dedicate
for me."
yourself, you work hard, I'll buy another one next year."
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it is. You got to
Yeah.
understand that as long as you make your life about your job, which there's nothing wrong with, and you don't commit to working for yourself, you're not ever going to be able to make that transition to the next step. There has to be a point where you say, and this isn't easy. This is, we could sit here and talk, but it's extremely difficult.
And I think that's part of it too. Nobody likes doing the hard shit. Okay? Nobody. Everybody wants
Especially when you
easy-
don't have to.
Yes, everybody loves that ease and comfort, the easy way out. It's the human way, dude. I mean, if you look at human life in general, we run towards pleasure and away from pain, right? Always go to the sweet foods, we go to alcohol, we go to drugs. I mean, that's what humans do. So it's like you're almost fighting what you're naturally wanting to do something like that. You're stepping out of a major comfort zone in the hopes that it's paying off.
Well, look, I feel like we're also painting a picture that it's like all rainbows and butterflies being a business owner
Exactly,
when it's far from that, right? So it's like, yeah, can you have more flexibility and potentially make more money? Sure. But you also have a lot more on your plate. I have to worry about all of my employees, and that sucks.
So
like,
this is-
aside from myself, right? Aside from my family's well-being and my brother, my partner's well-being and his family, I have to think about all my employees' well-being, and my brain doesn't shut up. It does not stop, right? So it's like everyone wants to talk about all the money you could make and all this good stuff, but it's not all. It's not.
What
all
about the
that.
headaches it brings
It's
too?
not all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is a great point, because when we were talking about the benefits and of a traditional employment, and we're not talking about the cons, right? The cons of this here, right? So one of the benefits, as I believe you stated, was that you get to shut your brain off. 5 o'clock, check out.
Yep.
Okay, I'm done. Like you can do whatever else you want to do. You don't have to worry about thinking about what are the expenses getting paid? What are my taxes up to date? Where do I have another distributor? How's my marketing? You don't have to worry about all these things that start piling on the plate. You get to shut your brain off. This thing, we're talking like it's easy, and I do want to step out on a tangent right here and say this. I do see the irony in 3 guys that chose to be self-employed discussing whether you should have a job or or be self-employed. But it is called Dadtrepreneur and not Dad with a job. So we're coming from a different perspective. We have this different perspective.
Well, I'll just make it clear too. I do half and half. So I have a job look, I'm basically a partner. You know what I mean? Like at this point, if PJ ever sees this, he knows it's true. I'm basically a partner at this point, and then I have my own business on the side. So I kind of dibble and dabble in both.
I just don't want people to feel like we're beating up on them. There's nothing wrong with that
yeah,
side.
agreed.
Right?
Definitely
There
not.
is a
Agree.
beauty to it. I know a lot of
Definitely
people
not.
who have traditional jobs and are very happy and do very well and make more money than people
Yes,
I know who have
correct.
their own businesses. There's nothing wrong with it. This is about if you feel that internal struggle and want to step out, but also to understand that I want to talk about something that I'm hearing a lot of lately. Like, I don't know, it's just this work-life balance thing, right? There is no work-life balance. If you choose to be, hear me out. I know. If you choose to be an entrepreneur, self-employed, there's no work-life balance.
We're
It's
laughing because
100%.
We did a whole
about
episode on that. Yeah.
and that's
It's-
exactly what
It's
we're saying.
100%. It's 100%. Until it can get to the point where it's self-sustaining.
Where you kick your feet
There
up.
is no downtime. When you call me, I'm answering. When you need it, I'm there. I had an employee one time. I don't want to say employee. I'm sorry. We was my partner, a junior partner at that time. And on the weekends, I was, hey, where you at? Saturday, Sunday, and he wouldn't answer his phone. He wouldn't, and it would drive me crazy.
Yeah.
But I respected it when he said, this family time. I get it. But that's why you're the junior partner. You know what I mean? Like, because our customers, if you don't answer that phone, somebody else is going to.
Correct.
If your customer cannot count on you, they're going to who they can count on. So, and this comes with its own set of problems, right?
Of course.
It's a lot of pressure. But guess what? Pressure does 2 things to a person: creates dust or a diamond.
Creates diamonds.
So which one you're going to do? You have the choice to say, this is where I'm coming out. this is what I'm allowing this to do to me. This process is going to make me a diamond, or I'm going to get crushed by it and run back. But I want to be clear. A job will always be there. A job will always be there. Opportunity may not, but a job will always be there. So if you're trying to decide what's the right time, now's the right time.
Correct.
Right.
So that's part of the reason why I don't understand why people don't take the risk, the leap of faith. Is exactly what you just said. It's like, unless you're making significant money, and when I say significant money, I mean 6 figures plus, I think that you could replace that job with most jobs or careers, I should say, if you did go and take that leap of faith into the business that you want to try and it didn't go well, you'll be okay. And I think that most people can't grasp that.
It's the safety net, right? And the struggle. We live in a world that's always, hey, you need the best this, you need that, you need to go here, go there, you need to drive this, you need to wear that. People, you got to forget about that when you're starting your own thing. When I started one of my first business, I promise you, I never bought a different pair of clothes. I wore the same thing for 6 months straight. I would not spend a penny on anything because I was saving. And this is almost laughable, but when I saved my first $1,000, I felt like I was over the moon.
No, I know
I was
what you
oh
mean.
my God,
Yes.
$1,000. You know what I mean?
I remember the first 10,000. I was like, oh
Yeah,
my
I'm
God.
rich.
Who am
I'm
I?
rich.
I'm retiring.
Yeah, who am I? And for me, like I set those goals in my mind. Like, I remember, my bank account would always roll or, a little below 5,000 or whatever at a given time. Then you hit 10 and then you hit 25 and then it was 50. And then the big one was 100, and then like once you reach 100, you're like,
That's what it becomes a rule, right?
Wow.
Can't go below.
Yeah,
that.
you can't
Yeah, I
get
know.
that.
That's
I
a
don't want to see
big
99.9.
Never.
I don't want to see anything.
and
under
then,
that.
you set your sights to 250, 500, and like, at least for me, like I kind of needed that. I needed those little goals to always see.
For sure.
Because that pushed me to work harder.
And
know?
you get addicted to watching it grow. Well,
Yeah,
at least for myself.
definitely,
You get
man.
addicted to seeing that number go
Definitely,
higher. It's like,
yes.
wait, I can go buy this or I can put that money in here.
I know for
Okay.
me, man, there's a certain amount every single month that I save no matter what. No matter what, I will save it. Because, for me, like you said, man, like I want to be in control of my destiny. You know what I mean? Like, God forbid something happens. I want to be able to know that like all my bills will be paid. It's called prudent reserve. I'm sure you've heard that before. All my bills will be paid. I can live the same exact lifestyle that I need to until I figure something out, and I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm not relying on something or somebody else.
Yeah. The first chunk that I saved, right, when it was like a nice amount, it almost scared me because I'm like, wait a minute, I don't want this just sitting here. I've got to do something.
Same.
Same. I've got to do
Yes.
something with this. And that's really what pushed me in to real estate as hard as I was doing when I started.
Right. So
really
I took a safer. I did, high interest savings. Right. So I'm like, okay, well, I could put this here for now, and like this will accrue something, until I maybe figure out what exactly I want to do with it.
Nowadays, high interest savings is pretty damn good.
Bro.
Yes.
4 to 5%.
I'm making 5%
Amazing.
4 to 5%
Amazing.
guaranteed,
to
no
do
risk.
nothing.
Yeah.
To
Come
do
on,
nothing.
dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not compounding, but
No,
Still,
but that's still
but it's
great. It's a great
guaranteed.
business.
If it generates you $1,000
Look,
or more a month,
completely agree. If you're not doing anything else
a
with
win.
it, you better be doing
It's a win.
high interest savings.
Absolutely.
So, look, I would love to keep talking more, to be
Yeah,
honest with you,
yes.
because I feel like, as
This is
usual,
great. Yeah.
great episode.
yeah, better than the last one.
We tend to love all our episodes, but look, if you enjoyed it, you learned anything, please like, comment, subscribe, give us your feedback, let us know what you want us to talk about next. We really appreciate you coming on, John.
My pleasure, man.
Really,
My
really
pleasure.
enjoyed having you, and
I feel like we need 2 more hours. of
Yeah.
this.
we might keep talking. So yeah, please like, comment, subscribe, guys, and we appreciate you. We'll
Click
see you
that
next
button.
time.
Peace out. Bye.
Peace.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of Dadtrepreneur. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe for future episodes. Stay connected with us on Instagram @Dadtrepreneur Podcast. See you next time.